What links Star Wars, It, The Tale of Gilgamesh, The Lord of the Rings, and Jane Eyre all together? At first glance, it might be easy to say nothing, but if you said Joseph Campbell's monomyth idea or the hero's journey, then you'd be right. And today, that's what we're going to look at. Let's get started. Hello there, and welcome back to Writing from Scratch with me, Tom. On today's video, I thought it would be a good idea to start our exploration of story construction by looking at the work of Joseph Campbell and his 17 steps that he identified in every book, story, and tale that he examined in his book, The Hero with 1,000 Faces. Joseph Campbell is famous for identifying these 17 crucial steps that are needed in order to create a universal tale. He identified them within old religious texts and modern books, and they're really influential in the way that we construct stories now. Before we go any further, I think I should point out that this idea is not universally accepted, and there are thousands of examples out there that go against Joseph Campbell's theories and his 17 steps. Instead, you should treat this as just one of many ways in which you can create a story. Quite often, this is selected as a good example and a great starting place for new writers because it's logical and has an extensive list of examples that you can use to draw upon and get inspiration. The idea of the hero myth, or monomyth, was not created by Campbell and can be traced back much further than him, but Campbell is widely credited with popularizing the idea that many adventures are linked by a common structure which makes them so interesting and compelling. In fact, his research in The Hero with 1,000 Faces was largely focused on religious hero stories like the Minos in ancient Greece. That doesn't mean it isn't applicable to other genres though, because it certainly is. I should also point out that while Campbell's structure contains 17 steps, you don't need to use all of them. And in fact, it's very common for writers to cut or add certain steps from this formula. Dan Harmon, for example, is famous for creating his story circle, which is based on Campbell's idea, but uses far less steps to construct a short, circular story. So, as I give you the list of steps, remember that certain ones can be cut or replaced by other things that you think of. So don't stress and don't think that you need to use all 17 every time. The 17 steps starts with a call to adventure. This is an essential step and basically the inciting incident that beckons our hero or heroine to break from their normal life and embark on their journey. This is then followed by the refusal of the call, which is a step where the hero may resist the call to adventure due to a reason such as fear or insecurity. From there, we have aid, and this is where our hero will usually meet a mentor figure as they set out, and that mentor may guide them on their journey and act as a font of information about the new world. Next, we have crossing the threshold, and this is where our hero steps into the world of unfamiliarity and away from the comfort of their old life. Fifth, we enter the belly of the whale, and this is where our hero is challenged by the new world and realizes the full extent of the challenge ahead of them. They may fail here or want to turn back. Six is the road of trials. This is a series of tests that makes our hero stronger and harder to their new world. It teaches them lessons about the new world which may be useful for later. Number 7 is a gift from a deity, and this is where our hero is given aid and stewardship by a powerful being that will help them on their journey going forward. 8 is temptations, and this is where our hero is tempted to veer from their journey and may lose their way somewhat on their way to their final destination. 9, we have atonement, and our hero confronts a power that has been challenging them from the beginning. This is usually the climax of our story, where the hero is faced with their ultimate challenge. At number 10, we have apotheosis, which is a moment of realization about the reality of the world or the situation. 11 is achievement, and this is where our hero has done what they set out to achieve because all the steps have come before. This is the ultimate expression of everything they've learned in their journey. Which leads to 12, which is a refusal to return, perhaps a step where the hero may not want to return to their ordinary lives, but usually this doesn't exist with the next step, which is escape. Escape is where our hero must escape with their achievement intact. But 14, usually our hero is going to be rescued by companions who lead them back to their normal life. At 15, they're going to cross the threshold and return to their starting world. 16 has them be the master of two worlds, where they must reintegrate with their old life, reconcile how they've changed, and potentially decide how to share their new wisdom. And number 17 is the freedom to live, where they've overcome their initial fear, become a stronger person, and now free to live as they like. That's just a very basic outline of what the 17 steps involve. And it's worth reiterating that some of these steps can be cut, or others can be added in as your story demands. To make it crystal clear, I want to use a real example from a story that's very famous for employing the 17 steps as Joseph Campbell saw them, which is Lord of the Rings. From there, I also want to show you another example of something completely different in the story of Jane Eyre, and also show how that structure is applicable there, to demonstrate how it's appropriate across multiple genres and stories. Let's start with Lord of the Rings. 1. Call to adventure, Gandalf recruits Frodo. 2. Frodo tries to give the ring to Gandalf. 3. Frodo is advised by Gandalf and then joined by Sam, Merry and Pippin. 4. They leave the Shire. 5. The group are joined by a hardened warrior, attacked by ringwraiths, and Frodo is severely injured. 6. They journey south through Moria, losing Frodo's mentor Gandalf. 7. Frodo is given advice and divine gifts from Galadriel. 8. Frodo is becoming increasingly tempted by the ring. 9. Frodo confronts the challenge of Faramir, but also faces up to Smeagol, who is someone he may become. 10. Frodo realizes they won't return from their journey and the full weight of his task. 11. Frodo destroys the ring. 12. Frodo is resigned to die for his achievement. 13. Frodo escapes imminent death. 14. Frodo is rescued by Sam and Gandalf. 15. Frodo returns home. 16. He decides to write his book in order to share his story and experience. 17. Frodo departs to the Undying Lands, where he can live free from pain of his journey. The Lord of the Rings is a very common and often cited example of the hero's journey as Joseph Campbell saw it. So let's look at a more unorthodox example of Jane Eyre. 1. Jane lives her ordinary life and is invited to Lowood, which she is excited to do in order to leave Gateshead. 2. Jane does not refuse. 3. She confides with Bessie, who advises her, essentially her only friend. Later, Helen in Lowood becomes a strong ally. 4. Moving to Lowood is the first time Jane has left Gateshead. 5. Jane is tested both literally with schoolwork and through punishment from Mr. Brocklehurst. 6. Jane is further challenged by Mr. Brocklehurst, but is resolved to fix the issues and restore her reputation. 7. Miss Temple is patient with her and gives her the benefit of the doubt, speaking with Mr. Lloyd from Gateshead to exonerate Jane's character. 8. Jane is tempted by Mr. Rochester's proposal to become his mistress, despite him being married. She loves him but refuses to give up her freedom. 9. Here she is confronted with the fact that she is not of high enough birth to marry men such as Mr. Rochester. 10. She realizes the previous point and accepts that she is free to live as she likes. 11. Jane discovers that she had wealthy relatives and is actually of equal birth to Mr. Rochester, and they can marry. 12. Mr. Rochester is severely disabled following the fire in Thornfield, which makes Jane hesitate about this new life, which would require her sacrificing some freedom to be with him. 13. Jane does not need to escape. 14. Jane does not need rescue. 15. Jane returns to Thornfield. 16. Jane is stronger for her journey, so strong that she can look past Mr. Rochester's disabilities and appearance and happily loves him regardless of the circumstances. 17. She and Mr. Rochester are able to live happily as equals through her own means. Both of these examples show you that you can tell wildly different stories, genres, and characters using the same structure. While the monomyth, again, is not the perfect structure and it has lots of critics and lots of exceptions against it, it's a great place to start, to learn the basics of storytelling and the elements that need to be involved to make a convincing story arc. Just try playing around with it, plan your stories using these 17 steps, and you'll be surprised what kind of convincing and believable stories you can create. So that's all we have time for today. I hope these 17 steps from Joseph Campbell will prove useful for you when creating a story. Please let me know down in the comments below. Please consider liking, subscribing and sharing the video with your friends because it really helps the channel grow. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next week.